And then we are going to just watch the start, and I'll cue the start. So, 5, 4, 3, 2 to music, stand by Ricky.
Good morning, Johnson Valley, and everybody from around the world watching on the World Wide Web. I am Ricky Johnson. Dave Brocious is going to be up here in just a little bit, but we are getting ready for the Progressive King of the Motos. And we are in Johnson Valley, California. It is a beautiful, little bit of a hazy day because it has been 1 week of unbelievable racing. Can-Am did a sweep in the UTV race. Actually, it was Josh Blyler won the King of the Hammers, and Bryce Mizzi won the T1 Toyo Tires Trophy T1 Truck Challenge. So we have in store for you today King of the Motos. Normally, Jimmy Lewis is out there designing the track, running the race. He is a participant this year. We've got Cody Webb, we've got Colton Haker, we've got Lettenbichler. We have all kinds of riders out there, and we're getting ready to go for the Prologue, which is going to actually qualify them for the race. We have about 120 riders, and we're going to have 40 rider, 3-row starts. So it is a land rush start, but not all 120 at the same time. So this So the prologue this morning is very important to seat the riders to make sure that they get in there. Now, the very first rider, I talked to the gentleman who designed the course, He was telling me that that does not put you on the pole. That gives you first choice, a lot like they do in Supercross. So the fastest qualifier in Supercross gets to pick his spot on the gate. So if they want to be on the far right, far left, or in the middle, whatever, that first rider, the fastest rider in the Prologue, that's his choice. And then they seat the rest of everybody according to how they finish. Then when it comes to after that, then it's row 2, same thing. The highest qualifier gets first pick and so on. But then they're going to let them go in waves. So it's very important to have a very good qualifying run in this Prologue, but it's very cold out there. We've gone back and forth. We were going to start at 8 o'clock. We were going to start at 8:15, 8:30, try to give the riders a little bit more time. But let me just tell you, this has been an unbelievable week, and to cap it off with King of the Motos, it's going to be unbelievable.
Nice job, Ricky. We're just doing a little bit of general fill. We should be going momentarily. I will give you a 10 count for the start momentarily. So just keep talking.
So, as I said, this week has been not one for the faint of heart. Yesterday, Josh Blyler comes in the lead. All he has to do is go down back door to make it to the finish line. He rolls it, tips over. They have to use the safety crew to get him out of the way. His co-driver gets out. Josh Blyler gets back on his wheels, takes off, leaves his co-rider at back door, says, don't worry about it, bro. Get to the finish line as quick as you can. Now you had Marcus Gomez, who actually on corrected time started in 97th position, worked his way up. He was second physically. All he had to do was finish within 20 minutes of Blyler. What happens? He breaks a tie rod in on his A-arm. Now he's got his right front wheel. He almost loses it. He catches it and manages to drive it and get down back door. So we're going to be going to the start in 6 seconds. So get ready. Keep your eyes watching. And green. We are on our way. So now what the riders are going to do is they're going to go one at a time every 15 seconds, because you can't do a Prologue where you have everybody at the same time, because a lot of this is how you draw and how your number is. So every 15 seconds, and the bikes obviously do not put up near as much dust. But if I had my choice, I would probably want to go off the line about third or fourth, somewhere in there, so that somebody has established where you're going, because these riders have 2 GPSs. One is typically zoomed out so that they can see the whole course. The other is zoomed in so that you don't miss any small technical stuff. Because here's the trick out here, and in a lot of the desert races, a lot of other places, the only thing you have is the main line. Out here with the open desert in Johnson Valley, where it's a recreational area where there's trails that go in all the different directions, it's easy for a rider to get sucked into following a road one way or the other. And we've seen Cody Webb was leading this a few years back, had it wrapped up, and he missed one spot, which they call a VCP, a virtual checkpoint, and he lost the race. It was a heartbreaker for him. But so the guys, I talked to Colton Haker this morning. We actually had some oatmeal at Starbucks, and we were talking about what the plan is here. And he said, you want to go out and go hard, but the biggest thing is you have to pay attention to your GPS. If you get off track and you miss one of your VCPs, the virtual checkpoints, that is going to cost you the race. So here this morning, I think the guys are going to want to make sure that they just do it very clean. They don't injure themselves. They don't tear up their bikes. And then you'll see some of the riders are going to switch tires and go to a different tire compound and stuff, because in the main race, it's going to be a lot more rock crawling and more technical stuff. So talking with Cody Webb, he's going to run one style, more of an open tire, of a desert tire for the Prologue, and then he's going to go into the more tacky, softer tire for the main race. Alrighty, and I'm going to welcome to the booth the man, the myth, the legend. Dave Brocious is in the house. So Dave, I'm going to give you a little education here.
Oh yeah, I got to learn all the controls.
Channel 4 puts you live to the audience. Channel 1 lets you talk to Tim, our producer. So that's going to be with you all day, or you can send it right there. So Dave,
got it.
Let's talk about it. So we'll come over here. We're not on camera, but we might be. Welcome back.
Well, thank you, Rick.
All right. It's been a few years since we worked together.
Yes, sir.
So give me some of your insight, because you know everybody. I talked to Destry Abbott this morning. He goes, oh, Dave's our Arizona boy. He knows everything about this.
Well, I'm just down on the starting line, and it was incredible. The conversation going on between Manny and Cody. You know, Manny Littenbecker, our KTM factory rider out here this weekend. Cody Webb on the Sherco. Of course, he's our defending champion. The last time we raced this,
Yep.
he was the only real finisher the last time, and he told me this time he hopes he can get off the bike on his own power.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of helped him off the last time. But those two guys are talking a lot of strategy. They're talking to each other. They're actually, sounds like they're going to work together a little bit. They're going to keep each other available.
I bet Colton's a little pissed off about that.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, you know, people that know Colton and know Cody, they grew up together as
Yep.
kids riding trials. Well, since they got on big bikes and they got into factory racing, that friendship kind of went out the door. And you know more than anything about friendship and racing.
Yeah.
You can be friends after you retire, but not during your time.
Well, and you don't wish your competition bad, except you want to kick their ass
Yeah, you wanna
as
beat
bad
them.
as possible. And a lot of times when they're teammates, it makes it even worse scenarios. Myself with David Bailey and John O'Mara, that because they're on the same bike as you, and you got to explain to the same guys. You know, it's like going to your dad. Why did your brother beat you?
Yeah.
But now, with this race, with this prologue, I talked to Cody a little bit. He's going to a couple different tire strategies.
Right.
Are you in on that?
Yeah, the guys are, you know, some of the guys are running I'm almost going to say an intermediate tire
Yep.
in this first one, but they've got gummies sitting there in the pits ready to go when the going gets really rough and tough.
Right, because what people will mean by that is what he's saying with the gummy is the tire compound is a little bit softer because of the rocks and the extreme things. You can't just use the regular knobby tire. And what you're saying with the intermediate, with this being more desert and things like that, and being so short, they're not worried about ripping the lugs off. So the gummy tire's got a closer gap between it, but in some cases it sacrifices you a little bit in the desert, but helps you so much when you're up in the rocks.
And Rick, I talked to a number of guys who plan when they go out, you know, for the real hard enduro portion of this race, they're running tubeless, and they're going to run 0 tire pressure.
Wow.
They're only going to inflate, you know, the one that does the sealing part, but they want that tire to be as squishy. I mean, they just roll, actually. They just wrap around rocks. And
Well, explain to the people, because you got a couple different things. Some of the guys, some people have run tire balls, which they get a little different. You can pop one and it kind of fills back in. Other run mousse, which that's a French word for foam. It's like a foam rubber inside. Some are running tubes, and now explain tubeless.
Well, the tubeless tire is basically what it says. You'd like to run a tubeless tire, but you've got a spoked wheel. It's not going to hold. So you have basically an outer high-pressure tube that's going to seal the tire and allow you, if you do choose to put air into the tire, it'll allow you to put some air in, but it will give you a great feel. A lot of guys really like them, but a lot of guys have already told me that, you know, they've already been drilling mousses. They drill holes literally in the foam inserts, or they run the, some of the mousses that are out there now, like Destry Abbott runs, they've got a very soft 8 PSI is what they use.
So when we're talking about mousses, you have a foam rubber donut that you shove inside of there. And so let's say if you put it in there and once you seal the wheel and you get the bead set, it has a pressure of 10 pounds. Let's just throw a number out there. And by what Dave is saying, by drilling holes in it, you're basically taking away that pressure so it gives it gap and room to move. And So you got to watch the people in the audience. You know what? There's so many clowns out here, especially guys that own wineries. You got to watch them the worst. Anyways, back to finish my thought, Charlie. By drilling holes, you can take pressure away, and it also opens it up. But you got to watch in the desert area. Now, anytime you interrupt that foam mousse, it sometimes can come apart. We've seen that happen as well.
That's what happens with the foam. You know, that's why guys don't run them in races like Baja or that type of stuff. They have run them in the front with success, but when they've tried to run them in a rear tire, they get hot, they melt, they deform, and all of a sudden you're riding a bucking Bronco.
Well, and we saw that in the T1 Truck Challenge the other day. We saw Andy McMillan. Everyone's going, he doesn't know that he has a flat because he didn't have a flat. But going across the dry lake bed at 120 miles an hour, even though he's in all-wheel drive, that rear wheel is spinning faster than the truck was going. So let's hypothetically say his tire is going 120, but the vehicle is going 110. That's 10 miles an hour. A slip, that friction creates heat, that blistered the tire, and the carcass came apart. Now it's the opposite with the mousse. The heat goes in, melts it, starts to come apart. Next thing you know, it's all over the place. When we saw that with Andrew Short, that happened.
That's what he had to do with Toby. He gave Toby, because Toby's wheel at Dakar, the tire came apart.
Yep.
And Andrew Short gave him his rear wheel. And I don't know about you, Rick, but I was amazed of Andrew Short riding a tireless motorcycle through sand dunes. How the heck?
Anybody that is watching this, go to YouTube, type in Andrew Short on rim or anything like that, Andrew Short Dakar Rally, and it's amazing. He cut the tire, got the tire off, and he finished the whole stage on just a rim. I mean, he was going way faster than I could go on a perfectly prepped bike, with a half a tank of fuel. So kudos to that. But that's the kind of tenacity that you need in this kind of racing. You can't. It's not like Supercross. You're out there for 8, 10, 20 minutes and you're done. Here you're in for the long haul, and anything can happen all the way down to the end.
Well, we saw last year that the guy who was destined to win crashes out in the last stage, and then Toby was able to take the win for KTM, and Husqvarna was like, whoa, our guy just crashed out. We can't have that happen. So racing isn't over till the checkered flag waves.
Well, last time that I was here with you, Cody Webb destroying everybody, won all 3 stages. Everything was awesome. He missed one VCP, and that cost him the race. So talking with Colton Hager this morning, he said, it's one thing to haul ass and go ride, because we're out here in Johnson Valley where there's a lot of trails and you get lulled into, oh, this must be the way. But you have to stay focused on your GPS and know where you're going, because if you miss one VCP, that's going to be the end of your race.
What's interesting is looking at their setups that they have. They run 2 GPS units. A lot of them are using the Garmin E-Trex, but there's a number of different brands out there. But they run 2 so that they can have one that's zoomed in and one that's zoomed out. And it was interesting last night talking to Justin Lineweaver, he said, when you guys get in the canyons, there's like magnetic issues going on in the canyons. He says your GPS will go wild, and you're thinking, wait a minute, it's pointing over here, but there's a canyon wall. You're not climbing to that point. He said, literally reset the whole unit, and he'll come back and you'll be back on track.
Talking to the young man last night who designed the course, I said, do you want to be like Carl Katak and may only have one guy finish? He goes, actually, no. What I would like to see is 5 finishers.
There you go.
And that gets, because you want to challenge the rider. You want to push them. As we can see, as we're watching on screen, we can't tell you exactly who each rider is, but that's where you're talking about having that gummy tire, because on that rock surface, you want to get your way going. You'll see a lot of different riding styles. Some people sitting on the back with their legs out, just trying to touch it. And that's where Cody Webb, I think, has an advantage because of those long legs. He can branch from side to side. Also, let's talk a little bit about, we talked about Ayresburg and how difficult that race is. I mean, a lot of American people aren't familiar with that, but Cody Webb is the highest American finisher, finishing second. And talking with Colton Hager, he won the Prologue. He won that is an awesome feat in itself, but has only gotten up to 11th. That tells you how difficult that race is.
When the best that we know of, they struggle in some of that stuff. But I tell you what, things are going to change. Cody really likes his Sherco.
Yeah.
And I'm telling everybody what's really cool is my suspension guy, Johnny Wiseman, at the ride shop, well, he does Cody Webb's suspension. So Cody took my advice and went to Johnny. I'm sure. I'm just saying, Johnny can build a bike suspension for a really fast guy or a really fat guy. Either one, it works.
And I'm kind of what about slow fat guys? I think I need to go see him.
I don't know. You're actually trimming up, my friend. It looks like you're getting back into race shape.
Well, race shape for T1 trucks, but with age comes a cage, and so at 55, all I can do is be in awe of what these gentlemen are doing. But we're going and we're watching these riders as they go through. That's why it's so important to get out front as quick as possible, because of the traffic jams. Even though if it takes a little bit, if a guy gets sideways and gets stuck sideways, there's nowhere to go. As we're watching this rider as he works his way up, doesn't have a lot of momentum, so he's got to start looking for bedrock to hang on to. But you don't want to get caught behind somebody.
Now, Manny's starting in the back of the pros. He's actually going to follow in on the guys, and he says that's his goal, is to basically try to work his way up to get Cody in sight. If he can get Cody in sight, and that will means he's cleaned himself and got rid of the folks in front of him, because he thinks Cody's the guy that could win this and chase him down.
I mean, between him and Colton, those are, you can never count them out. No. And I talked to Colton, and I also talked to Cody this morning. They're both healthy. They both feel strong. But as you watch this, I mean, it's just amazing. the terrain that these guys are going to be going through. And let's talk about Jimmy Lewis. I mean,
Yeah,
this
back
guy
out.
has done everything. He's raced a car. He's been in the Baja 1000. He's done everything. He's won everything. He's probably one of the best riding
Motocross,
instructors.
Enduro, GNCC.
Mini bike champion
Yes, sir.
multiple time. But he normally designed the course. This year he's riding.
You know, he's getting a taste of his medicine, as they say. You know, I asked him last night, we were talking, he goes, I'm training really hard as he's got that Pabst Blue Ribbon in his right hand. He goes, I'm ready to ride. He says, but I'm not ready to race.
And I think that's the right attitude to come into this, because if you're not doing this every day and being ready and in charge and in shape, you gotta go at it with to finish first. You first must finish. And then let's also talk about Cameron Steele, who's had a nightmare of a week.
I was going to say, hasn't he raced every day this week?
Yeah, and
or
he's
tried?
broken, and something is broken. His hand the first day, his T1 truck broke. It's been one thing
Just
after
stacks
another.
on top, huh?
Yeah, and you know what? But I see Cameron this morning. He's got a smile on his face. He's ready to go out there and hit King of the Motos. And so that's the kind of guy Cam is. He's a complete ambassador. And to give him a little bit more props, not that I'm not trying to blow too much smoke up Cameron's behind. But yesterday during the race, him and Wayne Israelson stopped Marcus Gomez because he had a flat, and Marcus is in a single-seat car. Marcus gets out to change it. They go, get back on the car, we'll change the tire for you, because you can get outside assistance from another competitor, but just not somebody on the course, unless it's a course worker that's towing you out of the way, trying to get you out of the
That's
line.
interesting. That was brought up at the riders meeting last night. There are riders who are actually going to be available to assist when they do the wheel swaps stuff. Apparently this year, they could just change a whole wheel. I can remember, I think the first year the deal was, you can change the tire, but you have to change the tire like 6 days type deal. Well, now they can have a spare rim, which makes it a lot better. But there's going to be a lot of downtime between some of the opening rounds, and we'll get some folks up here and maybe talk to them. And they've invited us, if we choose to go down in the pits and stick a mic in front of those guys. I don't know about that. We'll see. I tell you what, though, what I'm impressed with is the number of different motorcycles that come to this event. It's not your standard Japanese supercross type situation. Yeah, there's a ton of KTMs here without a doubt. But everything else just kind of comes out of the woodwork.
Well, and when you look at the bikes, a lot of people that aren't aware that are watching this, there might be rock truck people and things like that. But the main trend has been going to four-stroke for supercross and motocross, and also for desert racing, because the four-strokes have so much torque in that.
Yep.
But let's talk a little bit about why everybody is on a 300
Right.
two-stroke.
Well, the two-stroke is so much easier for those guys to ride, and there is a weight difference, a considerable weight difference, and the longevity of the motor, if it does get hot, it'll save itself. I mean, they put fans and everything on, everything they can do. I noticed Cody's even running full radiator guards, which in the past the guys just, they kind of poo-pooed that and said, you know what, but they don't want to bend a radiator, take them out of the race, because we've actually seen that happen with Cody Webb the very first year. He actually had a radiator seam explode while he was riding, and he got, coolant shoved up into his face.
And it wasn't very cool.
It wasn't cool. Yeah, exactly.
There was nothing cool about it.
It may have had coolant in it, but it wasn't cool.
So two-stroke versus four-stroke. Four-stroke it fires every fourth stroke. It's got valves. There's no oil. It runs just gas, and it has oil in the transmission and through the motor, and it works up through the valves like a traditional, like the car that you drive down the street. Now a two-stroke fires every second stroke, and also the gas and the oil mix together, so you get the lubrication that after it burns the gas off, the oil is there back and forth, and that's why you don't have as many moving parts, and that's why you can, with the same displacement, you have a lighter motor.
And then we also have the deal between, factory Sherco, Cody Webb, on a carbureted bike.
Yeah.
You have Manny and Colton Haker on TPI bikes.
Yes.
So there's a whole difference right there, and I'd be curious as to how those go. And I know a little bit about the folks that build those motors for KTM. Actually, Crankworks in Phoenix, I saw the blueprint that was sent to them from Austria.
Yep.
They actually redo the crankshafts for those factory bikes. They use, the same heavy metal that they put in to balance crankshafts in automobiles, but they move it farther out on the weights, and that gives that motor that real chuggability.
Well, and the thing that was in the past, why the motocross guys went from 2-stroke to 4-stroke was one is that the rules allowed you more displacement.
Right.
But the 2-stroke had a power, and then they came out with power valves. But the big thing is you're saying with the crank, and the most impressive thing that when I raced for factory Honda was the ability when they put a factory crank in there. It was like butter, man. It didn't vibrate. It was just completely smooth. And now with this, they'll put a heavier crank and a heavier flywheel to give it that chug, so it doesn't. It gives it more bottom end and more torque, which another thing I was talking with Cody about was the torque of the Shurka. He liked it because that company is known for their trials bikes,
right,
which is not making a supercross power and motocross power, but giving you that torque to climb rocks.
Well, those guys, they definitely take time and testing to get those things spot on. And when they get into this, if you watch these guys, we'll watch them here when the video gives us the opportunity.
Yep.
You'll very seldom ever see that wheel spin. It just grabs traction and moves on. Graham Jarvis, I remember listening to him when he won the very first one here. He said the whole game plan is to move forward. If you're moving forward, you're making progress.
Absolutely.
Just go forward.
Don't go back.
Don't go backwards.
And don't stop. Try to stop as little as possible because, go ahead.
And by the way, the last 4-stroke to really sit up on the podium was the very first year when Destry Abbott rode a kickstart only KX450 to third place.
Well, speaking of, we saw Destry down here, and it's great to see him with everything that he's gone through. I asked him if he was riding. He said no, but his boy is,
right,
and I'm a huge Destry Abbott fan. I mean, let's take his racing. Legend, all right. He's done everything under the sun, but the battles that he had to go through with cancer and fight back, and just keep such a positive attitude, and the love and support from his family. If you watch him on Instagram and stuff like that, he's just such a great man to look up to.
And when he talks, I mean, he's very low key, he's very professional, he's very friendly, but at the same time, there's no BS. What he's saying is a truthful account of what's going on. He's excellent at helping young riders. I think that's why his son has accomplished what he has. It's really hard for me. I mean, your son races, my daughter raced, so that sometimes that conflict between, your own child and yourself, it's like, well, Dad doesn't know. Well, wait a second. Dad's 4-time national hare and hound champion.
Yeah.
Dad's a 6 days guy. Dad's done everything. Yeah. Maybe Dad does know what he's talking about.
Well, and that's the same schmuck that's telling you to clean your room and brush your teeth and, and get your elbows off the table and all the different stuff. So it becomes a conflict. But that's the thing that Destry has. He has that ability to communicate. And when he deals with his kids, he's not talking down to them. He talks to them at the same level. And when I've had the blessing to train a lot of people, right, and I enjoy it. Either you like it or you don't when it comes to teaching people, because it can be very frustrating. But I think a lot of it is dealing and talking at the level of your student. And not talking down to them, not talking up to them, but talking to them at their level. And that's where Destry, if you have a chance, you're a rider and you want to go to a great clinic and you want to learn anything. I don't care if you're Graham Jarvis or you just bought a bike. Destry Abbott will teach you something.
You know what? And when you say he doesn't talk down to people, I've watched Destry working with students. When he's working with little kids on little bikes, he literally gets on his knees and talks to him face to face. He doesn't stand over the top of him.
All right, now let's go to the screen, and we see a bottleneck as we talked about. Now the rider's shooting off to the left. Now that is all completely new area, and they're just trying to find a way because no one's helping. And as you see the photographers, you think, man, what a jerk. Why doesn't he help him? Well, he can't.
He can't.
But the riders should get together and say, let's get you out of the way, then I'll get me out of the way, and so on and so on. But riders are riders, and what they do is they say, screw him. I'm going to try to go around him. I want to get going.
The problem that we have is later in the racing is lapping issues. But the riders here are unlike many racers at other places. They will get out of your way, and they will be very nice and very polite and let you by.
Or their guy's going to just go over the top of them and roll. Like true. Then that's the thing. You talk to Cody Webb and Colton Haker and Little Letty is. They seem like just sweet guys, But so are those mixed martial arts guys until the round goes, until they say let's get it on. Then they're a complete killer, and that's the same thing. We talked about Destry and Jimmy Lewis and stuff. They're nice and they smile and this and that. But I've been in the pit down in Baja when Jimmy Lewis has come in. And, man, he is a general. I want this, I want that, do this, change my tire, blah, 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 and boom, he's gone.
I used to pit for Jimmy when he teamed with Danny Hamill on KTMs.
Yep.
And, I mean, it was business, and it was intense. He knew he was there to ride, and he was trying to be there to win. He wasn't there to make friends. He'll make friends another day.
Exactly. And so the guys will get out of the way. So what do they say? Move something or get run over. But this view is awesome because where the bikes can go is even crazier than where the trucks can go.
Exactly. When they say single track, Rick, it's tire wide, and I don't mean rear tire wide. It's like front tire wide. It's narrow, and that's another thing. Front tires are so important out here as well. I mean, the guys aren't changing them, but they're all running a very soft tire, trying to grip and grab the rocks.
Well, and there's two terms in soft compound.
Right.
So you have that gumminess, but then also the flex, as you were talking about, drilling the moves to get it more pliable to work on that rock. Now, that is going to be, you have a tire that works very well in the rocks, that it's flexible, it moves side to side, you got traction, but when you're hauling ass across the desert, you hit those rocks and you get that jelly feeling side to side. That is a whole another ball game.
Speaking of hauling butt across the desert, Justin said some of the transitions from valley to valley are pretty high speed. And when I talked to Manny, he goes, I don't know why, but he says, I got on and was looking at the internet, and he goes, I watched Taylor Roberts crash. And I said, those rocks are the same color as the dirt. You're not going to see the rock. He goes, I watched that. I'm not sure that it was a good thing or a bad thing. He said, I have a lot of respect. I'm a little bit nervous of the high speed. He goes, I am not a desert guy,
Well, but that's the beauty of this race.
That's it.
And what Dave Cole started a long time ago, and how we've seen the King of the Hammers trucks, the Ultra Force, how they've evolved, and they go out and they'll work with Wayne Israelson and do a desert setup, and then they do a rock setup, and they go, okay, let's mix and match. And that's the thing that's so unique about this, is you have to have a vehicle or a motorcycle, a truck or a motorcycle that does everything. So it's not going to be best at everything, but you got to make it that
That two-wheel drive coming in, didn't win, but where they did finish with those things, I watched you guys. I was listening to you when that race was going on. I was amazed at what that two-wheel drive truck was doing. That's basically, I thought, just a Geyser Brothers trophy truck, type deal running out there. But those guys have tremendous skills. Anybody that thinks they can do this, all I can say is throw lots of money, see what you buy, and come on out and visit.
The only thing that's going to stop you is a couple $100,000.
Yeah, exactly.
So now you can see where the riders are working the double track, and now they're back on what you call the single track, where you can see that it's not a car path. It's really narrow, so it's something that's been set up by the motorcycles, and so it's very narrow, and the guys got to work side to side. But at this point of the race, it's an established trail. With the Prologue, they don't want them working and getting lost and anything like that. They'd like to get everybody through here. Then we get to the first heat, and then we'll see how it happens. Then we'll get as the day goes on.
You'll see guys. They're not lead back hauling butt across the desert. These guys are kind of up on the tank. They're looking way ahead. A lot of the bikes, what I'm amazed, a lot of the bikes now are carrying on board on the front fender a actual tow strap that they can reel out. That Mario Roman with the Shercos, he kind of introduced that to everybody, and kind of a cool deal. And it pulls right from the center of the bike. You're not grabbing handlebars or front fenders, and you can work with that, and guys like that. But
I need that just to load my bike in the truck.
Oh, I agree. I think I just need a winch, with a button on it and a track.
If I could just get my friends up there with a winch to pull me up. Shannon Campbell might we could wake him up, get him up on the hill. He can help me get up there.
He can design that, and he'll just sleep on it one night, and he'll have it for you ready the next day. Now, right now, if you look at this wash, you might think, well, shoot, that looks like something a guy would be hauling through that. Well, these guys know that if they don't maintain their energy level, they won't be around at the end. So, they may be able to go fast in parts, but they have to psychologically talk themselves down.
Well, and the riders, you're going to see a lot of different abilities and sizes and how they ride. And sometimes, you think, why is he standing up so much? Well, if you get your legs close to being locked, you're saving your torso from getting that beat back and forth and stuff. But then you'll see a guy sitting down a lot, and you think, well, someone might say, why don't you sit down more often? Well, that shock is going to your body and to your head, and that's wearing you out as well. So it's a combination of how much legs, how much body, where to sit down, and where to go. In this kind of racing, you're not going 100% the whole time. Go fast in the desert, slow in the rocks.
You know, and if you look at really the successful extreme guys, they are very tall, pretty lanky. They've got those legs, and they use them. You'll see them dab. You're not going to see them necessarily, push the bike up, but they'll dab. And what I like watching, I watched, doing Last Dog Standing this year, watching those guys. They pick their spots. They'll move the bike. I mean, they'll literally pick the bike up the rear and move it over, or they'll kick rocks out of the way before they go, head up. But when they do one of these climbs, it's almost like watching trials. They'll rev the motor pretty high, they'll fire that clutch, and they'll have 100% confidence.
And if we have some viewers that are new to the King of the Motos and the extreme enduro, things like that, just go check out Graham Jarvis, Johnny Walker, and the guy, I think the OG guy that kind of started it and was a beast is David Knight. When David first started this, winning so many times at Ayresburg and the other extreme enduros, as you said, he would bridge two rocks and he would pick the bike up and carry it over. So I'm actually excited this year. I'm sure what I get to do this summer, I'm excited. I'm going to the Isle of Man TT, which that's where David is from. And so the plan is to maybe have a pint or two and then cruise around, and I get to go over there with Dave Thorpe and Gordon Cockard and Josh Brooks and stuff like that. So I'm such a huge fan of Isle of Man, but I'm also a huge fan of David Knight. And when you meet David, when I met him the first time, he's got such a young soul. He's this beast of a man. He's probably big. About 6'6", probably about 230 or so.
Looks more footballish than motorcyclish.
Exactly, or an Australian rules football player.
Oh yeah, he could be a rugby guy,
Exactly.
without a doubt.
But you watch the smile on his face, and he loves riding, and he's just so enthusiastic. But he's the kind of guy that would love this kind of event.
Yeah, he could do this. And we have one rider that I talk to every year. He comes back every year, and I believe he comes out of Montana. He's in his 60s, and this is kind of his idea. If I can do this, I'm ready to go for another year. He sets his goal to finish this event, which he's done, and he'll be looking for a finish again.
Well, and the thing that what you don't realize when you're a spectator and you're looking at everything from, let's say from a couple hundred feet, is all it takes is a softball-sized rock, and that will completely ruin your day on a motorcycle. The rocks that you have to look for on a motorcycle, you don't even see them when you're racing trucks, and that's why I think, and this has nothing to do with me, but that's why I think if you start with motorcycle racing, it makes you a better truck racer, because you see more. You have to be aware of where things are going, and you're moving slightly left or right, and especially when you see how fast guys like Destry Abbott and Jimmy Lewis, to mention a few, and Johnny Campbell. As these guys, they go so fast through the desert, and they're just splitting it by hairs, and they're looking so far down the road. And that's one of the things, if you want to talk about that, for riders, you can't just be focusing on that 10 feet in front of you.
I'll tell you what, though, watching Ricky Brabeck and just, dominate this year at Dakar.
Yeah.
And, of course, Ricky, the District 37 guy, he's National Hare and Hound champion. He's a Baja champion. And now he's got Dakar under his belt.
Well, and also congratulations to Johnny Campbell and Honda. Honda's been working at that for so many years, and last year coming up to the very last day and to have that heartbreak, and now to see Ricky break through, and it's awesome because Honda, was so dominant in the 80s and 90s, and then all of a sudden, they've had a little bit of a lull, but they've worked their way back. Ken Roxon is on fire in Supercross. And then also, as I said, Ricky Brabeck, as you said, Ricky Brabeck winning the Dakar Rally is phenomenal. So to see that manufacturer work their way back up. And then also seeing them out here with a new talent. I love it that they're back into the side-by-side business.
Hey, I'll tell you what, anybody that's a racer, they start off as a racer, and boy, you got to kick them out before they stop. You may get older, but in your brain, you got, well, more than anybody. In your brain, you think it's still there.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
ready to go. It's like DeCoster told me, talking to him one time. He goes, I still want to race. He says the problem is, I could go to Supercross and ride a lap and do certain sections. This is a few years back now. He says, but I can't.
I said, when the hell did he say that?
Yeah, I was going to say, but that was back when I was working for him and Greg Bauman when they did the GP at Glen Helen. But he said, I can't do it consecutive. I could do a section, but I can't do the racetrack.
Yeah, I feel similar to that I could do the takeoff on a triple. It's the landing.
Yes.
That's the part that would get me every lap.
Nobody ever gets hurt really on the takeoff. It's just the landing.
Yep.
Everybody goes, I want to learn how to jump. I'm like, learn how to jump. It's easy. Learn how to land.
That's the hard
critical.
part for sure. As we're watching the split screen, we're seeing the riders as they're working their way through, and we're still running the guys through the prologue. So, in your mind, would you rather be the first? If you had to choose first or last, what would you choose in this prologue?
I'll tell you what. I think Manny being the last pro to go off, I think that was kind of his choice. He wanted to do that, and he had that option because he signed up late purposely for that. But I think with the amateurs, I think I'd want to be as far up to the front as I can, because I want to be the guy causing the bottleneck. I don't want to be caught in the bottleneck.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the thing is, like you see that rider, as he gets stuck, he loses 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. And, that's where the race is lost or won. It's because, so now you see the rider, he's taking the right choice, that he goes, I'm going to wait, I'm going to get rest. He's looking around. Is there another way around this? Because
there's a way around if you wanted to go right there. You could have tried to do that wall.
I think he heard you, Dave.
Yeah, well,
and sure enough, and then this guy's going to go, well, no, I'm going to follow him, and why are you going the other direction?
Yeah.
And this is where they'll bark back and forth at each other, what the hot line is. But now he decides to go over there, and the other rider went up to the left. But what we can't see is how steep that is right there.
No, the camera does not do any of this justice.
Oh.
Yep.
1 down, 2 down.
I'll tell you
what.
what.
You can see the body position right there. He's just like, damn it, I got to pick this thing up again.
Now,
And
thank God for electric start bikes.
Exactly.
The guys, like I said, Destry finished his first one the year, and he got third place on a kickstart only bike. I don't know how he had the energy to do that. Well, but then again, he's Destry. So
let's go into the recluse clutch. Let the people that aren't aware of that kind of explain what so obviously not obviously, but for some people, but for most, these are manual transmissions. You have a clutch on the upper left-hand side. You have a 4 or 5 speed, depending on how they're, most of them are 5 speeds. You got 1 down so that you don't find neutral, and then you got 4 up as you go. But now explain to the people, what is a recluse clutch?
Well, being a guy who rides with one, I love the thing because I have some difficult.
So it's a gift from God.
Oh, it is, because I have rheumatoid arthritis. Trying to ride a clutch, I'm good for about 5 miles maybe before my arm goes away. But the recluse clutch, it's not an automatic. It does not shift for you.
Right.
People are confused. You still have to shift the bike, but you can still use the clutch in a very manual way. But with the recluse, you have a couple of advantages. One, if they're set up correctly, they will not stall.
Right.
Now, they can't, if they're not set up correctly, they are a handful on a downhill.
Exactly.
But you can have compression braking if you know how to get the weights and the springs and such dialed in. But basically, it gives you the opportunity of a bike that if it tips over, it'll keep running. You can pick it up. You don't even touch the clutch. You just continue to ride.
Same thing if you're coming down the hill and you get scared and you slam on the brake. And that's a problem with a lot of the manual shifting bikes, is that you pulling the clutch, lock up the brake, and it wants to slide back and forth. And so you're trying to prevent from stalling. But now when you eliminate that, it lets the rider be a lot smoother and a lot more cautious. So I think it's not just for beginners either.
No, it's not.
So a lot of the pros, but the guys you're seeing up front, they like the clutch. They like to have that attachment from their hand to the back tire.
Well, when you were racing motocross, you used that clutch probably more drive with that clutch than almost the throttle, wasn't it?
Well, and there's multiple ways to apply power. So when you have the throttle, obviously on off, but with that clutch, you use that friction point, because back in the day with the two strokes, the Supercross and motocross two strokes didn't have the bottom end that these had. So you had to use that clutch to get that RPM up into the right range to help carry you to clear a triple. And what's funny, Colt and I were talking about this morning. You know, back in the day, and you know, you're probably going to hear me say it a lot. I love that today. But you had to, with the 252 stroke in Supercross, you had to come through the corner, go from second, third gear, and as your throttle's pretty much wide open as you're applying clutch, if you let it out a little too much, you overjumped it. If you didn't let it out enough, you underjumped it. So it was a fine line and a balance. But as a rider, that's your job. You're doing it all the time. It just becomes an addition to your body.
Now, isn't it for you guys, because you've done it so often and so many hours on the bike, isn't it more muscle memory after a while?
Absolutely. It's like when you get into your car, like if you have two different cars, I've done this before where I'll have the manual, the automatic transmission on the floor or up on the tree. And if I'm driving my van that's up on the tree, what I do is I get into my truck, I start it, I reach up for it, and I grab for it, and it's not there. Yeah. So it's one of those things that where your feet go in your vehicle, if you're driving with your left foot or just your right foot, it becomes muscle memory. And so that clutch just becomes, like, as I said, an extension, just like with the throttle. You don't think I need half throttle. You go, I need this, or do I need,
and that was our talk last night with Jimmy Lewis. He says with the TPI bikes, he says, we're also used to riding a carbureted bike that you're used to giving it throttle and waiting.
Right.
The TPI bike, you don't. But he goes, I can tune the TPI bike to feel like a carbureted bike.
Yeah, and even the technology has changed with the two-stroke. Before you had to choose. You know, you would get a bike that was stock, and it had a basic exhaust port. And with a smaller one, it gave it more bottom end, gave it more compression and more torque. But then as you open it up,
rider going down there,
another rider down. He's like, as I pick up my bike,
just
again,
slid out. Now guys are going by me that I was just passed on that last uphill.
Yeah, but everybody pads himself up, and that is the one thing that you cannot do with the Recluse. Bump start your bike.
Yeah. Well, you can actually, but I'm not going to tell you how. Those guys explain it to me, and I'm like,
how fast you got to be?
You got to be going like 55, 60 miles an hour.
Point. I tried to bump start one, and I was going, I don't feel like taking it on the highway at 80 to get this thing to go, but to get the friction to get to
let's
run.
Put it this way: the guy towing you is going to be over probably the posted speed limit.
Exactly. If there's a radar gun, he's going to jail.
Yeah.
So now we see the guys starting to work their way out of town and into town and stuff like that. So this prologue is not that long as we look at the course. So we should be seeing our finishers in here very shortly.
Yeah. You know what the thing about it is, the way this course is designed, you come back in and you do see Hammertown.
Yep.
But then they turn you around and they send you back out. You're not coming home.
Exactly.
You're going back out. Now, see, we've got three riders here all wanting to occupy the same spot, and they're really not waiting. They're going to work. See, he just kind of falls in front of that guy as he slides.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. On my way through.
They may be changing the guys' names. They may be calling them unfriendly terms, but...
Like, excuse me, brother.
Yeah, pardon me.
Pardon me while I run over your leg. That boot looks like it's going to give me good traction.
I was going to say, I'm looking for traction. That boot's better than that rock.
I like the buckles on the side of that. It's
yeah,
just what
it's
I'm looking
grab.
for.
I know I crashed one many years ago at a desert race, and when I brought my helmet in, the guys looked at it and they go, "Oh, the guy that hit you was running a Metzler," because the tire they rolled the tire right over the pattern on my helmet. I'm like, great, you know.
So now you went around and started looking for that guy to whip his ass.
I wanted to find that
on.
guy, you know. It's kind of when I realized I wasn't a fast guy. I was a rider, not a racer. Now this guy, he
gave up on it. He surrendered.
Yeah, he kind of came around and said, "I've chosen the wrong line." Now here's a guy that almost looks like Bo Long trying to get up there on his Circo 300.
So if I was coaching this rider, for one, I would say try to get your body. So he's got his fanny pack that's the weight on the back.
Yeah.
You barely see any seat left. So he's looking for traction, but as he tries to accelerate, what happens is it pulls the front wheel up. And so sometimes that's helping right there. Now he'll scoot to the back, try to get a little traction, but those longer legs are helping him out. And it's a game of inches. So it's like literally if you're doing a rock climbing, you're looking for the next big hold, next big hold, next big hold.
Just keep moving forward.
Yep. And we still have riders taking off. It's amazing how many people have signed up for this beating.
And you know what I like about it on the amateurs? You go down and you look at their bikes. They're not pretty. They're scarred. They're skinned. You can tell these guys ride this stuff a lot. You know, they don't look like they rolled out of, remember the old days of box vans when the factory pulled up at the box van and the bike came out? Today, those bikes show up. God dang, those things are beautiful.
And then when we're watching these riders go through, you know, standing down, sitting up, or I just said that backwards.
Standing down, sitting up.
Standing down and sitting up. Yeah, I said that. I'm going to phrase that. Sitting down or standing up. All right, one ding on me today. That'll be the first of many.
Ah.
But watch them and then pay attention when you watch the other riders like Colton and Cody and Little Letty and things like that. Don't just pay attention to the overall mass. Watch where their knee is versus their ankle. Watch where their body is forward.
Clutch.
Watch
if you're
clutch.
recording this, go back and watch those guys and see how they're climbing around on that bike to get traction. Again, see, they can see off in the distance. They can see, hey, I'm not far from home. Got to be careful coming down those hills like that because they are fast and they are slick, and that looks pretty darn steep to me, Rick.
Yes.
That looks like that might have been a hammer trail for one of the truck races.
Now, if you look at that, there wasn't a tractor that went up there. That was just years and years of guys driving vehicles out here and enjoying it and going rock crawling. Because what we saw yesterday in the King of the Hammers main event is when they're going up Sledgehammer and Spooners and all these Chocolate Thunder. It's like, who the hell thought I'm going to drive a truck up there? You know, and then they didn't all have 40-inch tires and rock crawling machines and stuff. They were just out there winching, and skid plates were at a premium.
I'll tell you what you don't want to leave is that liquid trail of dark oil up the side of something.
We never do that out here in the desert. We always take out whatever we bring in.
Yeah. And that's another thing. When these guys come into pit and they get fuel, they literally, on like the pits that are out here on the racetrack, where the riders have to service themselves, there's tools out there if they packed them, and there's gas if they sent it. If not, they're out of luck. But they have to pit on a tarp.
Yep.
I mean, they're being watched by the local law enforcement.
Yep.
No spills, no waste, no must. And again, like you said, you bring it in, you take it out.
Well, and then that's what, you know, talking to the gentleman that built the course, you know, those berms are 20 feet tall.
Yeah.
And when you come back here next week, and that's one of the things that we really want to encourage, is if you bring trash in, take trash out. You know what? And don't walk by a beer can if you got a bag or something to throw it in, or a Monster can or whatever trash. If you see a piece of trash, pick it up. And that's what's going to keep the desert open so that we can keep using it. So Dave Cole said it best, that the inmates run the asylum. The officials, there's only so many officials, and there's 50,000 spectators, and those are the inmates that I call. And then if they're out of control, you're not going to control them with the small amounts of security.
You know, doing KOM at the end of the week here at Hammertown, there's a lot more spectators this time. There's more people being introduced to this when we used to do it, you know, the first event of the weekend. Yeah. So we're getting the exposure now. And the riders turn out.
Some of the truck folk are a little hungover and they're still sleeping. So
a little bit.
Those damn pesky motorcycles are waking
those
me
things
up.
are loud. Yeah. Thank God they're not two strokes from years past.
Exactly.
Man, I go home and I've got a bull taco I'm restoring. I look at that thing and I'm like, do I really want to start it? I got to go get some earplugs.
That's right. Got that stinger on the back.
Oh, yeah. got that gorgeous downpipe. That lasts about, 20 seconds out here?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you'd make it from where the strider is in the lower right-hand side. And you know what, folks? If you're watching from home and you're looking for your rider and stuff like that, it's impossible for us to keep up because, as you can see, this rider doesn't have a number on the side and stuff. So we're just trying to give you some insight and just kind of get the thing going, and we'll get the rider run down. Now, check out this rider, how big he is, how low that bike sits in the back, and how high those handlebars are. So he's setting that bike up so he's for standing up and also for leverage to help put him in a strong zone.
Yeah, I tell you what, you really have to have the ability to look ahead and keep scanning the trail so that stuff doesn't come up on you.
Dave, have you ever seen anybody have the handlebars that high?
I know.
That is like a 8-inch perch on that. That is now. Pay attention to this rider. He's got a more of a standard position. Arms are down a little bit. You don't want to when you're standing up, especially in off road. You don't want to be too far forward, especially coming down these hills. But if you get them down too low when you sit up, put your hands too high, and that takes weight off your front wheel, and you can't turn as much. So if you're going to model yourself after somebody, what I always tell everybody is find a rider that's your size. For me to set my bike up like Ricky Carmichael, who's about 5'6",
on a good day.
Yeah, but the guy, he made 5'6" work.
Yeah.
And as we talk about, Cody Webb makes 6'5" work. Is he that tall? 6'4"?
I think he's 6'4".
Right.
Yeah. So he can play basketball for sure.
Yeah. But if you're going to mimic a rider, try to pick somebody that is close to your size. And even if they're on a different brand, just look at where they're at, how high they put their bars. Do they raise the pegs up? Do they lower the pegs to give themselves more distance? There's a lot of things that you can do on bikes now to adjust them to fit your rider.
And go back and look at lever placement. I see guys come out to local motocross and their levers are like straight up in the air, and I'm like, how the heck they do that? Go look at you guys, if you're recording this, we hope you are, go back and look at bike setup. And what I wish we could do, I wish there was a way we could zoom in and see what tire everybody's running. Now, of course, Manny, he is running a factory Dunlop tire, a factory tire.
Yeah.
They're definitely not the off-the-shelf tire.
Well, some of them will have dual compounds, so they're a little bit. And same thing, they do that with road technology. I was talking with Randy Richardson from Michelin, and he's saying if you use the Anarchy Adventure, because I'm going to be riding a Honda. I just found out from Chris Cox that I might be riding a Gullwing because I'm forced to get back there in 5 days. So I got to put in like 11 hours a day.
It'll definitely be a quicker trip.
And so my plan was to do an Africa Twin to go the longer, but we had something come up, and so I only got a week to get back there for the 50th running of the Daytona Supercross. They invited all the past winners, so this is a once in a lifetime deal because I doubt I'm going to make the 100th running. I kind of thought I had that thing beat, but chances are this is a once in a lifetime deal, and to be a part of that. And I've always enjoyed Daytona, so I'm just going to hammer it back there. I'm going to get a goal wing. Never thought I'd say that, but I'm going to get a goal wing, and I'm going to hit the highway, and I'm going to go all the way across there. And my father passed away last year, and so he always busted my balls for never riding across Daytona. So I'm going to take his ashes to Daytona, and that'll be his final resting place.
Good for you. Make it a memory.
All right. Now, it's warming up a little bit. I noticed that when I was watching the guys this morning, Cody and all the guys had jackets on. You're seeing the riders, they're starting to peel that down because the sun is up in full effect. And you want to kind of keep your body warm in that. And it's a lot cooler once you get going because that wind, and we saw it is about 40 degrees. If you're not out here in Hammertown, it's probably going to have a high of 60 or so. But then Dave Cole says it's supposed to snow tomorrow.
Yeah, I saw the news this morning. I'm like, I'm glad I'm getting out of town tomorrow.
Exactly. Everyone's going to be packing up as quick as they can.
But we left here one night and it was snowing. Remember that year?
Yep.
We left here and it was like, what the heck is hitting the windshield?
Yeah, I was like, that's weird dust. Is there a fire?
And on my dash, it comes up ice.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, Cody and Manny both were wearing a light vest.
Yeah.
Of course, Cody this year on the new FXR gear.
Yep.
Pretty flashy stuff. I found out, though, in talking to him, I was like, maybe I'd be interested in buying that. And they're like, we don't make pants that waist size.
We can squeeze you into a 32.
Nah, one leg at a time.
I think you look sexy in that.
I'm just happy when I can buckle my boots.
So the guys are
Guys
running
are railing that
the
thing, aren't
infield.
they?
They're running that backwards. So time is time. So if you can make up time at that beginning, that's what you don't want to make sure that you don't leave anything on the ground.
Now we're back to, yes, this is virtually, if you're on course, if your GPS is still telling you you're on track, you can kind of go where you choose to go. Most guys are following, the worn-in line at this time, but there'll be guys that are going to go, you know what, I think I could make it this way. It's going to be better. So we may see some really good line choice here. These guys are patiently waiting. I'm not sure if they're...
So want me to put that up there? Tim, you got a copy?
So we're still getting our amateur riders off. I'm telling you, we have a tremendous turnout this year. A tremendous turnout of riders out here. We are so glad to have them. And Justin Lineweaver, who took over kind of the operation of this, lives just up the road. He and his dad have a business where they make custom grind cams for Harley Davidsons, like the top fuel round bikes. So Justin's out here with his Beta, and I asked Justin, I said, how's that Beta holding up? He goes, I just want to tell you right now, he goes, it's a great bike. He said, but I did break a frame laying this race out. So gives you an idea how hard this thing is. Of course, when he says that, he only, the guy put probably 1,000 miles out here trying to lay out this course.
Well, and the last rider is off off the line, so everybody is out on the field. So we're going to be getting some information shortly, and I know everyone's curious to see what's going on. It's great to watch this, but you want to know where everybody's standing. So we're going to be getting some results on where the top 5 and hopefully up all the way up to the top 10, where they're not even close to finishing yet, but we can see where they're at when they're going through the different checkpoints on the field here at the Progressive King of the Motos. But we'll be getting to the main event at 10 o'clock. So that's going to give the riders right now, it's at 9 o'clock or 2 minutes till. So the riders, when they get back, they'll have some time to work on their bikes and get ready to go. Because obviously the guys, the front runners are going to be on that front row, and they'll be leaving. So the guys that will start in the second and third row will have a little bit more time to work on their bikes and to get ready to go.
And we want to remind everybody, the only one who can work on the bike is that guy riding the bike.
Exactly. But unless
he get a buddy.
And he gets a buddy. And that's the thing where you were talking about Little Letty and Cody talking about working together. They could help each other out in those difficult spots and then say, okay, it's the last 15 miles. Teammate is over.
Yeah.
I'm going after you. You're going after me. But also in there, if they do have to work on each other's bikes, 2 hands is much better. Or 2 sets of hands is better than 1.
Now they did tell them that the mechanics can guide them like 6 days. They can talk them through what they're doing, and they can't hand them tools, but they can hand them water or food.
But see, that's why I would have sucked at this game, because I'd be like, it's broken. Fix it. I don't know. I'm that guy that when things break in my car, I open the hood and mysteriously I hope there's an arrow, like a neon sign saying, just replug this back in and put gas here, put water here, and it should go. But it doesn't work.
My favorite comment was years ago. I was doing a works race and Ryan Hughes was racing, and a bunch of our guys that just got back who were racing works who had been at 6 days, and Ryan goes, if I went to 6 days, I could win that. He says, I'm pretty sure. And they're like, we don't know. Americans we don't do that well. Of course, that's all changed. But Hughes goes, no, I'm going to go to 6 days. And then his mechanic, Hoodie, you might know Hoodie from all the years. Hoodie goes, Rhino, you have to do all your own maintenance.
Yeah.
You have to change your own tires.
Yeah.
You even have to put your gas in and everything. And Rhino looks at him and goes, Hoodie, we ain't going to 6 days.
Guess what? I'm going to 1 day.
Yeah.
Where you can sit there and work on my bike.
I'm a sprint guy, not a 6 day guy. The year that we were doing this and Taylor Robert crashed so hard.
Yep.
And
that was a scary moment.
It was very scary. And then, for him to come back and do so well and win 6 days for America twice now, and doing so well individually, it is such an excitement. I talked to him at his championship party, and he's like, man, I'd really like to come out and do KOM. He goes, but it's not in my contract.
Right.
And that's something I think a lot of people don't realize is riders are contracted to ride certain races, and other races they can't just say, oh, I want to go do that, or I want to go do that. The factories basically tell you, give you a date, a time, and buy your plane ticket.
Well, and that's what I love. It goes all the way back to watching on any Sunday and Malcolm Smith
Yes.
challenging the 6 days and learning, because as Americans we're very, especially people from California, that we're very, we don't go much out of our pond. We don't know what other things are happening or this or that. Like a lot of the fans in Supercross don't know anything that goes out behind Anaheim or San Diego. That's their thing, because there's so many other distractions. But European fans and stuff, and there's a lot of these riders that we've never heard of, and they're so good at this like Graham Jarvis. Let's talk about him for a second. How
old man.
unbelievable! For one, how the hell do his eyes survive? I want to cry every time after the race. He always has his goggles off on backwards, and his eyes look like they're bleeding at the end of it. But Colt and I were actually talking about that this morning. How smooth he is, and how there's so many little movements that he makes that you don't even see it, and he's that good.
That trials background. He was a world-class trials rider as well. And a lot of guys, like I said, Cody and Colton both come out of American trials.
Yep.
And, Johnny Walker, who we see, racing all the extreme stuff, he was a trials guy. About the only guy that really didn't have trials experience is Wade Young, the Sherco rider out of South Africa. But Wade Young, if you look at him, he's a David Knight kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's big, he's strong, and he's actually one guy that you'll hear the motor revving a lot. He likes to get that thing up on the pipe, as they say, and ride the wheels off of it.
So let's talk about Sherco for a little bit. I mean, a lot of American people don't know what that brand is.
Right.
They're very, very strong with trials bikes like Beta. We'll see some Betas out there as well. Which
Max Gersten's on board.
You're right, exactly. So you have the different brands, but Cody loves that. I mean, he says he's a huge fan of that bike.
Rick, I'm told those guys say that the reason they like it, Cody likes it so much, he goes, it's actually more like a trials bike as far as the foot pegs, the handlebar position and stuff. He goes, it's just easier to ride extreme stuff because of the trials background.
Right.
The bike is not a desert racer. It's not a supercrosser.
Yeah.
But I think they will eventually turn into a real good bike. Mitch Carvoth, who's actually racing, who's the West Coast manager for that, he's doing a great job. And we'll see the Baylor brothers this year running GNCCs on them. And they're good motorcycles. People better not thumb their nose at these things. These are for real deals.
And they're out of France.
They're out of France. I know, kind of everybody thinks they're like out of Spain or someplace,
Right.
but no, they're a French.
The name actually sounds more Spanish than
It
French.
does. You're right.
Right. If anybody knows what Sherca means, I would love that information to share that with the world. So if you want to throw us a tag on social media or something like that, I would love to tell the world what Sherca means.
That would be good. I see one of our Huskies out here. And of course, I'm old school Husky. I remember the Swedish days, then the Italian days, and now we've got the Austrians taking over. People are like, oh, they're just white KTMs. No, there's a difference. They are different.
Where is he going?
That's true.
He found.
It looks
look at
like
that.
there's a line there, actually.
He actually found a line. It's
And
actually a better line. This guy's got to be a local to know that.
He's good, isn't he? Look at him work his way. He's not hitting the rocks. He's kind of riding around them and picking a line and looking ahead. And like I said, doing what they say do. Just keep moving forward. Oops. I tell you what, those rocks, though, they will stop you dead in your tracks, as they say. Man.
Well, and as you notice, you don't see any of the tool bags or the racks or anything like that on the bike. People might, because every time, and I did it, I'm guilty of it. The first time I went down to Mexico, I'm like, I don't want tools on me. I'm going to put it on my bike. That was the biggest mistake I ever made. For one, I put it above the back fender, and all of a sudden I came over a bump, and that tool bag hit me in the ass, and then threw me up and over the handlebars. So that was one of the things. But also the bike bounces around. But as you ride, you'll see a tool bag around the waist and the camel back, and maybe some other parts and stuff up high. Mm-hmm. But you spread that stuff out.
Kind of wrapping up there for action. I think it's time maybe we read through some of our results. I'll give you like the top 20, and then we'll pull up a graphic teasing the main race at 10, and we'll just take a break.
All right, we got some information coming in. We are going to be, as we said, we were going to pull away for a second from the guys on the track. We're going to give you some information about the races that are out there. We have information that the top 20. We'll let you know where your rider is at that point, because I know everybody's trying to pay attention, looking either on your phone or a video. So as that information comes in, we will squeeze that out to you.
So here, I'm just going to read it to you. You're just going to hear it. So
the fastest at this point, Manuel Letty. So we got the little Lettenbichler is out there. He's the he's the quickest guy at this point. Second, Mitch Carvole. Third, Cody Webb. Fourth, David Camo. Will Riordan. Cooper Abbott. So Destry, your boy is rocking. Seventh is Ron Camo the third. Eighth is Colton Haker. 9, Grayson Gonsalves. Max Gersten 10th. 11th is Jimmy Birthday Cake Lewis, is what we've been told. So my producer's laughing in my ear and can't spit the names out. Once again, Dalton Dietz is 12th. 13th, James Flynn. 14, Nick McGowan. Keith Sweeten. 16, Tyler Kincaid. 17, Wayne Dickert. Did I say that wrong?
Yes, that's how it's pronounced.
Jane Burnside.
Jesse Burnside.
19, Josh Warrendo.
And
rounding out top 20, Brandon McGowan.
So everybody, we'll be back at 10 a.m. EST for the main race.
All righty, everybody. We will be back at 10, right before 10 o'clock, right before the start of the race, and that was your top 20, how they're going to line up. Interesting deal. Little Letty is the fastest qualifier, and as you said, Dave, he wanted to start in the back to see what he did, and so he actually utilized that very well. But guys like Colton Haker, there's a reason why he's relaxed.
Those guys, they're not worried about where they're at right now. They're comfortable where they're at right now. They're happy.
So coming up, as I said, the main of the Progressive Insurance King of the Motos main event is coming up at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you're out cruising around, you got about 50 minutes to go take care of some business, get another cup of coffee, whatever you want to do to get ready to watch some King of the Motos. We'll be back in just a moment.
And I want to give a big shout out to the Arizona guys, because in that top 20, there's like 6 guys coming out of Arizona. So, yay for those guys.
There we go. We got one fan from Arizona here.
Yeah, one fan, 2 fans. Hey, well, thank you. I got to get my little plug-in for my guys.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the Progressive King of the Motos. Stay tuned.
Excuse me. Do you mind being a motor?
What could be better than being a motor? The real question is, do you mind not being a motor?
I do.
For those who were born to ride, there's Progressive.
Race-proven technology developed in the harshest off-road environments. Cutting-edge manufacturing, delivering unmatched quality every time. Combined, we've created an entirely new breed of tire with the performance of mud terrain and the versatility of all-terrain. The Ridge Grappler completes Netto's full range of truck tires, no matter what you're driving.
Let 4WP
Transform your ride.
with custom packages starting at $19.49. Take your Jeep or truck to the next level with wheels, tires, and suspension, all for one low price. Packages are available now for Tacoma, F-150, GM 1500, and Jeep JL and JK. Want to build your own package? Then let our expert staff help you customize, install, and do your rig right. Shop online at 4WP.com with free pickup at any one of our 95 4WP stores nationwide, with installation available for everything we sell. Now is the time to transform your ride with vehicle packages and accessories at 4 Wheel Parts.
You ever wish you weren't a motor?
Sure. Sometimes I wish I had legs like you.
Yeah, is it like a regular person?
No. Still have bike half man. Just the opposite.
What's it? Legs on the bottom and motorcycle on the top. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
For those who were born to ride, there's Progressive.
Your bearings shoulder the burden whenever you tow, haul, or stomp the gas. AMSOIL delivers powerful protection for bearings and other critical components so you can drive with confidence. To demonstrate, an independent lab put AMSOIL synthetic motor oil head-to-head against a leading competitor in a 100,000-mile test. AMSOIL provided far superior wear protection and kept engine bearings looking like new. Get your truck the protection it deserves at amsoil.com/engine.
Bring on the punishment. Steel-It polyurethane coating is proven protection. The stainless steel formulation shields against corrosion and protects against the toughest terrain. It's weldable, so there's no need to remove the coating. Just weld right on it. Go to steel-it.com for more.